Picture this. It's 3:47 in the morning on April 26, 2000. The Reno-Tahoe International Airport is almost deserted. The terminal lights cast long shadows across empty corridors. Most passengers are long gone, and the graveyard shift workers are settling into their routines. But outside, on the tarmac, in one of the most restricted, dangerous areas of any airport, a young woman is running. Not walking. Running. Darting between aircraft. Hiding behind ground equipment. Looking over her shoulder as if someone, or something, is chasing her. When airport police finally corner her near a maintenance truck, she's trembling, disoriented, terrified. She says her name is Star Palumbo. She's 25 years old. And she's looking for her sister, her younger sister who she claims is out here somewhere on the tarmac, in danger. There's just one problem. Star doesn't have a younger sister. Within hours, Star Palumbo would be released from the airport and sent to a local hospital for evaluation. She would walk out of that hospital later that same day. And then, she would vanish. Completely. For over 2 decades, her family has been searching. Investigators have been puzzled. And the question remains, what happened to Star Palumbo? Was she running from something real? Was she experiencing a mental health crisis? Or did she stumble into something far more sinister, something that would cost her everything? Welcome to Untold Cold Cases Files. I'm your host, and today, we're diving deep into one of Nevada's most baffling missing person cases, a case where every answer leads to more questions, where nothing is quite what it seems, and where a young woman disappeared into thin air, leaving behind only fragments of a puzzle that no one has been able to solve. This is the story of Star Palumbo. Before we begin, I need you to do something for me. If you're interested in unsolved mysteries, cold cases, and the stories of people who deserve to be remembered, people whose cases deserve justice, then hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is dedicated to bringing light to the cases that have been forgotten, the files that have gone cold, and the families still searching for answers. And here's why this matters: every subscription, every like, every share helps us reach more people. Someone watching this video might know something. Someone might remember Star. Someone might have the piece of information that finally brings her home. So please, before we go any further, subscribe to Untold Cold Cases Files, hit that like button, and share this video. You never know who might see it. You never know whose memory might be jogged. Let's bring Star Palumbo home. Now, let's get into her story. To understand what happened at that airport, we first need to understand who Star Palumbo was. Because this wasn't just a random woman having a breakdown. This was a real person with a real life, real dreams, and real struggles. Star Michelle Palumbo was born on March 29, 1975. She grew up in the Reno area, part of the fabric of this desert community where everyone knows everyone, where the casinos light up the night sky, and where the American dream feels both tantalizingly close and impossibly far away. By the year 2000, Star was 25 years old. She stood about 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighed around 125 pounds, with brown hair and striking brown eyes. Those who knew her would tell you about several distinctive features: a birthmark on the right side of her neck, multiple piercings in each ear. These details would become crucial identifiers in the years to come. Star worked at a pawn shop in Reno. Now, if you've ever been to Reno, you know that pawn shops are institutions in this town. They're where people go when they're down on their luck, trying to make rent, trying to scrape together enough for food or gas. They're places where desperate meets necessity, where stories accumulate like dust on forgotten jewelry and outdated electronics. Working at a pawn shop, Star would have seen humanity at its most vulnerable. She would have heard stories. She would have met people from all walks of life, some just temporarily down, others trapped in cycles they couldn't escape. But Star's life wasn't just about her job. According to friends and investigators, Star was struggling with something that millions of Americans struggle with, something that carries stigma, judgment, and often, isolation. Star had developed a problem with drugs. Now, I want to be very clear about something. Drug addiction is not a moral failing. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a disease, a battle, a demon that takes hold of people from all backgrounds, all socioeconomic levels, all walks of life. And in the year 2000, we weren't talking about addiction the way we do now. There was less understanding, less compassion, fewer resources. According to people close to Star, her drug use had progressed to a point where she had accumulated debt. She owed money, possibly to dangerous people. The kind of people who don't send collection notices or threaten lawsuits. Was it withdrawal? Or was she genuinely being threatened? Was someone actually following her? We may never know the complete answer to these questions. But what we do know is that by April 26, 2000, something had driven Star Palumbo to the Reno-Tahoe International Airport in the middle of the night. And what happened next would be captured on security cameras and witnessed by multiple airport personnel, a bizarre incident that would become the last confirmed sighting of Star Palumbo. April 26, 2000, the early morning hours. It's approximately 3:47 a.m. The airport is in its quietest phase. A few red-eye flights have departed. The cleaning crews are working. Security personnel are making their rounds. Everything is routine. Until it isn't. Airport security receives a report of an unauthorized person in a restricted area. This is serious. We're talking about the tarmac, the area where aircraft taxi, where fuel trucks operate, where a single mistake can cost lives. This isn't like someone wandering into the wrong terminal gate. This is a legitimate security breach. Officer, name not disclosed in records, responds to the call. He's trained for situations like this: potential terrorists, confused passengers, maintenance workers who've forgotten their IDs. He's seen it all. But he hasn't seen this. The officer spots a figure moving between aircraft. It's dark, but the tarmac is lit by those harsh sodium lights that turn everything an eerie orange. The figure is clearly a woman. She's not dressed like airport personnel. She's not moving like someone who's supposed to be there. She's running. Not jogging. Not hurrying to catch a flight. Running like someone who's being chased. The officer calls out. The woman doesn't stop. In fact, she seems to run faster, more frantically. She's darting behind equipment, changing directions, clearly trying to evade him. Now, imagine being that officer. Your adrenaline is pumping. You're thinking, is this a terrorist? Is this person trying to sabotage an aircraft? Is this person armed? Your training kicks in. You have to stop this person. But there's something else he notices. Even from a distance, even in the harsh artificial light, he can tell this woman isn't just running from him. She's terrified. She keeps looking behind her, scanning the area like she's expecting someone else. Someone who isn't there. After several minutes of pursuit, minutes that must have felt like hours, the officer finally corners her near a maintenance truck. She's crouched down, trying to make herself small, trying to hide. "Ma'am, you need to come with me right now," the officer says, his hand on his weapon, not knowing what to expect. The woman looks up at him. Her eyes are wide, pupils dilated. She's breathing hard. And then she says something that makes no sense whatsoever. "My sister. I'm looking for my sister. She's out here. She's in danger." The officer manages to get the woman into a secure area of the airport. Now, under better lighting, he can see her more clearly. She's young, maybe mid-20s. Disheveled but not homeless. Frightened but not aggressive. He asks for identification. She provides it. Her name is Star Michelle Palumbo. She's 25 years old. She lives in Reno. Tell me about your sister, the officer says, taking notes, trying to assess the situation. She's younger than me, Star explains, her words tumbling out rapidly. She's out there on the tarmac. She's running around. She's going to get hurt. The planes, she could get hit by a plane. We have to find her. The officer exchanges glances with his colleagues who have now arrived. They've done a thorough sweep of the tarmac. There is no one else out there. No younger sister. No anyone. Ma'am, we've checked the entire tarmac. There's no one else out there. You were alone. Star becomes more agitated. No, you don't understand. She's out there. She's hiding. You have to look harder. Please. Here's where the officer makes a crucial decision. He's experienced enough to recognize that Star isn't showing signs of criminal intent. She hasn't tried to damage anything. She hasn't been violent. She's clearly in some kind of psychological distress. But something isn't right. The story doesn't make sense. The terror in her eyes seems genuine, but the sister she's describing doesn't exist. The officer asks Star more questions. Does she have siblings? Star admits she does have siblings, but they're not at the airport. They're not in danger. But she insists there's a younger sister out on the tarmac. It's at this point that the officer begins to realize he's dealing with something beyond a simple trespassing incident. This woman is experiencing something, a psychotic break, a drug-induced hallucination, a dissociative episode. Something has fractured her perception of reality. Rather than arrest Star, the officer makes another decision. He's going to have her transported to a local hospital for psychiatric evaluation. This is the compassionate choice. This is the right choice. Star is taken to the hospital sometime in the early morning hours of April 26. Medical staff evaluate her. The details of this evaluation have never been made public. Patient privacy laws protect this information. But we know that Star was not admitted for long-term care. By later that same day, April 26, 2000, Star Palumbo walked out of that hospital. And then she vanished. For several days, no one reported Star missing. This isn't unusual in cases involving people who are struggling with addiction or who have unstable living situations. People in Star's life were used to her disappearing for days at a time. They might have assumed she was lying low, avoiding her drug debts, maybe staying with friends. But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. Star's family grew increasingly concerned. They filed a missing person report. They contacted friends, former co-workers, anyone who might have seen her. They distributed flyers with her photo, her description, that distinctive birthmark on her neck. Nothing. Star Palumbo had effectively vanished from the face of the earth. But the story doesn't end there. Because over the years, rumors began to circulate. Theories developed. And the case of Star Palumbo became one of Nevada's most puzzling missing person investigations. When Star's family filed the missing person report, the Reno Police Department opened an investigation. They had a few things going for them: a clear timeline, witness statements from the airport incident, hospital records, and Star's personal background. But they also had significant challenges. Star had been living a lifestyle that made her vulnerable. She associated with people involved in drugs. She had debts to dangerous individuals. She had talked about wanting to change her identity and disappear. Was Star Palumbo really missing? Or had she succeeded in her plan to vanish and start a new life? Detective, name not publicly available, was assigned to the case. His first step was reconstructing Star's final known movements. We know she was at the airport on April 26. We know she was at the hospital later that day. But where did she go after leaving the hospital? The detective interviewed hospital staff. They confirmed Star had been evaluated and released. She had not seemed to be in immediate danger to herself or others at the time of release. She had left the hospital on foot. From there, the trail went cold. The detective then turned to Starr's known associates. This is where things get complicated in cases involving people in the drug community. People don't talk to police. They're afraid of incriminating themselves. They're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid, period. But the detective persisted. He talked to Starr's co-workers at the pawn shop. They confirmed Starr had been acting strangely in the weeks before her disappearance. More paranoid. More anxious. She had mentioned being worried about people she owed money to. Did she mention specific names? The detective asked. The co-workers couldn't or wouldn't provide specific information. They knew Starr was in trouble, but the details were fuzzy or deliberately kept vague. The detective also learned something interesting. Starr had been trying to scrape together money in the weeks before her disappearance. She had been selling personal items, working extra hours, trying to come up with cash. Was she trying to pay off her drug debts? Was she trying to gather money to finance her disappearance and new identity? Investigators looked into the drug angle extensively. Reno in 2000 had its share of drug trafficking, just like any city. Methamphetamine was becoming increasingly prevalent in the area. The addiction crisis that would eventually be called the opioid epidemic was just beginning to take shape. Who did Starr owe money to? This became a critical question. But it's also a question that's nearly impossible to answer definitively. Drug dealers don't keep public records. They don't file paperwork. They operate in shadows, in cash, in threats whispered rather than written. Investigators developed some theories based on Starr's known associations. There were a few individuals who came up repeatedly in interviews, people known to be involved in drug distribution, people who had been violent in the past. But without concrete evidence, without a body, without witnesses coming forward, the investigation stalled. Then there was the other theory, the one that gave Starr's family both hope and anguish. Maybe Starr had succeeded. Maybe she had managed to change her identity and disappear. Maybe she was alive somewhere, living under a different name, finally free from her drug debts and her troubled past. This theory gained traction because of what friends had told police. Starr had explicitly talked about wanting to change her identity. She had researched how to do it. In 2000, before the massive digitization of records, before social media made everyone trackable, it was theoretically possible to disappear and start over. But there were problems with this theory too. First, Starr would need money to start over. And according to all accounts, she was broke. She was behind on rent. She was selling her possessions. Where would she get the funds to relocate, establish a new identity, and sustain herself during the transition? Second, Starr would need to cut off all contact with her family. Her parents. Her siblings. The people who loved her. By all accounts, despite her struggles, Starr had maintained relationships with her family. Could she really walk away from them forever without a word? Third, there's the matter of her social security number. If Starr were alive and working under her real identity somewhere, there would be a record. Social security numbers get used for employment, for tax purposes, for opening bank accounts. Investigators checked. There was no activity on Starr Palumbo's social security number after her disappearance. So if she did disappear intentionally, she would have had to obtain fraudulent documents, no easy feat, and certainly not cheap. Investigators also checked Starr's financial records. In the weeks after her disappearance, there was no activity on her bank accounts. No withdrawals. No deposits. No debit card usage. Her account simply went dormant. This is significant. In most cases where people disappear voluntarily, there's at least some financial activity in the days immediately following. They withdraw cash, they use cards in new locations, something. Starr's accounts showed nothing. It was as if she had been erased. Starr's case was featured on the television show, Unsolved Mysteries, in October 2001, about 18 months after her disappearance. The show reconstructed the airport incident and featured interviews with Starr's family members pleading for information. The episode generated some tips, but none led to any concrete developments. Some callers claimed to have seen someone matching Starr's description in various locations: California, Oregon, Arizona. But every lead was investigated and every lead went nowhere. The frustration for Starr's family was immense. Their daughter, their sister, had vanished. The last place anyone saw her, a hospital where she was supposed to be helped, had released her into a situation where she disappeared forever. Let me pause here for just a moment, because I want to talk to you directly. If you're still with me, if you're invested in Starr's story, if you want to see cases like this solved, then I need you to take action right now. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring that notification bell so you never miss an episode of Untold Cold Cases Files. But more importantly, and I cannot stress this enough, share this video. Share it on your social media. Share it with true crime groups you're part of. Share it with friends and family who live in Nevada or who might have lived there in 2000. Because here's the thing, someone out there knows something. Someone remembers Starr. Someone might have information about what happened to her that day after she left the hospital. Someone might know about the people she owed money to. Someone might have seen something suspicious. Your share could be the thing that finally brings answers to Starr's family. Your share could be the thing that brings her home. So please, share this video right now. Let's make sure Starr Palumbo's story reaches as many people as possible. And now, let's look at the theories. Because over the past 2 decades, multiple theories have emerged about what happened to Starr Palumbo. Some are more plausible than others. Some are disturbing. But all of them deserve our attention. Theory 1: Drug-related murder. This is the theory that law enforcement considers most likely, though they've never been able to prove it. The theory goes like this: Starr owed money to drug dealers. These weren't casual users she borrowed from. These were people in the business, people who depend on collecting debts to maintain their operations and their reputations. When people don't pay, consequences follow. Starr had talked about being afraid. She had talked about people wanting to hurt her. This wasn't paranoia fueled by drug use, or at least, it wasn't only that. This was based in reality. After being released from the hospital on April 26, Starr likely returned to her normal haunts. Maybe she went looking for friends. Maybe she was trying to score drugs. Maybe she was trying to hide. Whatever the case, the theory suggests that she crossed paths with the wrong people. Perhaps they confronted her about the money she owed. Perhaps the confrontation escalated. Perhaps it was planned from the beginning, she was lured to a location and killed. Perhaps it was spontaneous violence that got out of control. In this scenario, Starr's body was disposed of. Nevada is surrounded by vast desert. There are abandoned mines, remote canyons, areas where a body could remain hidden for decades. The desert doesn't give up its secrets easily. Why this theory is plausible. Starr had documented drug debts. She had expressed fear about specific people. She had no financial means to disappear voluntarily. There's been no activity on her social security number, bank accounts, or any official records for over 20 years. Drug dealers have both motive, the debt, and means, access to vehicles, knowledge of disposal sites. Problems with this theory. No body has ever been found despite extensive searches. No suspects have been publicly identified. No witnesses have come forward, even anonymously. Likelihood assessment, 60 to 70%. This remains the most statistically likely explanation. The circumstances of Starr's life, her documented fears, and the complete absence of any trace of her for over 2 decades all point toward foul play connected to her drug involvement. Theory 2: voluntary disappearance. This theory holds that Starr managed to accomplish what she had told friends she wanted to do, completely change her identity and start a new life. In this scenario, the airport incident was perhaps her final act as Starr Palumbo. Maybe she intentionally created a memorable, bizarre incident that would make people think she was mentally ill. This would provide cover for her disappearance. Oh, Starr. She had a psychotic break. She's probably wandering the streets somewhere. She's probably dead. After leaving the hospital, in this theory, Starr would have left Reno immediately. Perhaps she had a friend or contact in another state who agreed to help her. Perhaps she had been planning this for weeks or months and had resources squirreled away that no one knew about. She would have needed a new identity, possibly purchased through black market documents. Enough cash to sustain herself until she could get work under the table. The psychological strength to cut all ties with her family forever. A plan for how to live completely off-grid. Why this theory might be true. Starr explicitly told friends she wanted to change her identity. The bizarre airport incident could have been deliberate staging. It's technically possible, especially in 2000 before extensive digital tracking. Some people genuinely do vanish and start new lives. Problems with this theory. Starr had no money, she was broke and in debt. Obtaining fraudulent documents is expensive and requires connections. She maintained close relationships with family members and would have had to abandon them completely. There's been absolutely no sightings or credible leads in over 20 years. In the age of the internet, someone would likely have recognized her by now. Likelihood assessment, 20 to 30%. While it's possible, the practical challenges of disappearing voluntarily, especially without resources, make this theory less likely. The complete absence of any trace of Starr for over 2 decades strains credibility for the voluntary disappearance theory. Theory 3, Victim of Human Trafficking. This theory emerged more recently as awareness of human trafficking has increased. The theory suggests that Starr, in her vulnerable state, struggling with addiction, in debt, without stable housing or employment, became a target for traffickers. Human trafficking often targets the most vulnerable members of society. People struggling with addiction are particularly at risk because traffickers can use drugs as a means of control. The theory goes that Starr may have been approached by someone who promised help, money, or drugs, and was then trafficked into forced prostitution or labor. In this scenario, Starr could theoretically still be alive, held somewhere against her will, unable to escape, unable to contact her family. Or she could have been trafficked for a period and then killed when she was no longer useful. Why this theory exists. Starr fit the profile of high-risk individuals for trafficking. The Reno/Las Vegas corridor has documented human trafficking activity. Her vulnerability due to drug addiction made her an ideal target. The airport incident could have been an attempt to escape traffickers. Problems with this theory. There's no evidence suggesting Starr was involved in prostitution before her disappearance. No tips or leads have ever pointed in this direction. Human trafficking victims sometimes manage to contact family or authorities, Starr never has. Likelihood assessment, 15 to 25%. While we can't rule it out entirely, this theory has less supporting evidence than the drug-related murder theory. Theory 4, Death by drug overdose. This theory is simpler and, in some ways, more tragic. After leaving the hospital, Starr obtained drugs and overdosed. Her body was then hidden by whoever was with her, not because they killed her, but because they panicked. In this scenario, Starr might have been with friends or acquaintances when she overdosed. Afraid of being charged with her death, afraid of police involvement, these individuals disposed of her body in the desert or some other remote location. Why this theory is possible. Drug overdose was a real risk for Starr. People often panic and make terrible decisions when someone dies unexpectedly. This would explain why there's been no activity on her accounts, she's deceased. This would explain the lack of a crime scene or evidence of violence. Problems with this theory. Why wouldn't STAR's associates have called 911? Even drug users typically call for help during overdoses. This theory still requires someone to have hidden her body, which is a serious crime. No one has ever come forward, even anonymously, to claim this is what happened. Likelihood assessment, 25 to 35%. This is a plausible middle ground theory that accounts for STAR's drug use without requiring premeditated murder. Theory 5, accident or suicide. Some have theorized that STAR, in her distressed mental state, may have died by accident or suicide after leaving the hospital. The suicide theory suggests that STAR was severely depressed, perhaps experiencing drug-related psychosis, and took her own life somewhere in the desert. The accident theory suggests she wandered into a dangerous area while disoriented and died from exposure or injury. Why this theory exists. STAR's behavior at the airport suggested mental distress. People experiencing psychotic breaks sometimes engage in dangerous behavior. Suicide is a real risk for people struggling with addiction. Problems with this theory. STAR had no documented history of suicidal ideation. She was actively trying to address her problems, talking about changing identity, trying to raise money. How would her body remain undiscovered for over 20 years if she died by accident? This doesn't account for the complete absence of her body. Likelihood assessment, 10 to 15%. While we can never fully rule out suicide or accident, the circumstances make this less likely than foul play. For STAR's family, the past 2 decades have been a nightmare with no end. Imagine not knowing. Imagine having no closure. Imagine every phone call, every knock on the door, making your heart race with the thought, is this it? Is this the news about STAR? STAR's parents have aged over these years, carrying the burden of not knowing what happened to their daughter. Her siblings have grown, had families of their own, and had to explain to their children about the aunt they never met, the aunt who vanished into thin air. The family has participated in countless media appeals. They've worked with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Adults. They've hired private investigators when they could afford it. They've followed up on every tip, every lead, no matter how unlikely. And they've had to endure something particularly painful, seeing their daughter reduced to theories and speculation. Reading online forums where amateur detectives debate whether she ran away, was murdered, or is living under a new name in another state. Seeing her described as a drug addict rather than a person who was struggling with addiction, a daughter, a sister, a human being who deserved better than the hand life dealt her. The Reno Police Department maintains STAR's case in its cold case files. Periodically, new detectives are assigned to review the file, to see if fresh eyes might spot something that was missed, to see if new technology might provide new leads. In the early 2000s, DNA technology was advancing rapidly. Investigators collected DNA samples from STAR's family members and entered them into national databases. The hope was that if unidentified remains were ever found, they could be tested against STAR's family DNA for a match. As of 2025, there have been no matches. In recent years, investigative genetic genealogy, the same technology that helped solve the Golden State Killer case, has opened new possibilities for identifying unidentified remains. But again, you need remains for this technology to work. And no remains have been found. The police have also periodically re-interviewed key witnesses and persons of interest. Sometimes, years later, people become willing to talk. Alliances shift. People get clean and sober and feel guilty about secrets they've kept. Deathbed confessions happen. Detectives hope that one day, someone will break their silence. So far, no one has. Over the years, there have been numerous searches for STAR's remains. Law enforcement has used cadaver dogs, searched abandoned buildings and mines, and followed up on specific tips about burial locations. The vast desert around Reno presents unique challenges. It's easy to hide something in the desert. It's even easier for the desert to reclaim what's hidden. Sand shifts. Plants grow. Weather erodes evidence. What might have been a shallow grave in 2000 could be undetectable by 2025. Volunteer search and rescue teams have also participated in efforts to locate Star. These dedicated individuals spend their own time and money combing remote areas, following up on theories about where someone might dispose of a body. In 2015, a particular search focused on areas near old mining operations. Nevada is dotted with abandoned mines, deep shafts that go down hundreds of feet. It's been theorized that Star's body might have been disposed of in one of these mines. But searching every abandoned mine in Nevada is a task of almost impossible magnitude. To date, none of these searches have yielded any results. The case has generated hundreds of tips over the years. Some come from people who genuinely believe they've seen Star. Others come from psychics who claim to have visions about her location. Still others come from people who may not have the best intentions, people seeking reward money or attention. Every credible tip is investigated. Star's case file contains documentation of follow-ups on sightings in California, Oregon, Arizona, Washington, and even as far away as Texas and Florida. In each case, the sighting either couldn't be verified or the person turned out to be someone else. One particularly promising lead came in 2008 when a woman matching Star's description was spotted working at a restaurant in Northern California. Investigators traveled to the location, but the woman, while similar in appearance, was not Star. She had documentation proving her identity, and family members confirmed she had lived in the area her entire life. Another lead suggested Star had been seen at a casino in Las Vegas in 2004. Security footage was reviewed, but the woman in the footage, while bearing some resemblance to Star, was several inches taller and had distinguishing features that didn't match. These false leads, while frustrating, are part of the process. Each one is investigated thoroughly because any one of them could be the break the case needs. The impact of unsolved mysteries. Star's case being featured on Unsolved Mysteries in 2001 brought national attention to her disappearance. The show's extensive reach meant millions of people learned about Star's story. The episode is still available online, and new viewers continue to discover it. The exposure from the show generated a surge of tips immediately following its airing. The Reno Police Department was overwhelmed with calls. Star's family received messages from across the country, some offering support, some claiming to have information, some just expressing sympathy for their situation. But as the weeks and months passed after the episode aired, and no solid leads emerged, the reality set in: media attention, while helpful, wasn't a magic solution. Star was still missing. The mystery remained unsolved. The changing nature of missing person investigations. Star disappeared in 2000, before social media, before smartphones, before the hyper-connected world we live in today. In some ways, this worked against the investigation. There was no digital footprint to follow. Star didn't have a Facebook page that might have provided clues. She didn't carry a smartphone that could have been tracked. She didn't leave a trail of Instagram posts or tweets. But the modern era has also brought new tools to the investigation. Cold case detectives now use social media to reach potential witnesses. They can analyze cell phone records, though none exist for Star's case, as cell phone usage was less common in 2000. They can use facial recognition technology to scan photos from events, crowds, surveillance footage. In Star's case, if she did survive and is living somewhere under a different name, it becomes increasingly difficult to remain hidden in our current era. Yet, over 2 decades later, there has been no credible sighting of Star Palumbo. The Reno community hasn't forgotten Star. Local true crime enthusiasts, citizen detectives, and concerned community members periodically bring attention back to her case. They share her story on social media. They organize awareness events. They keep her case in the public consciousness. There's a belief among many in the true crime community that cases are solved when they remain in the public eye. When people keep talking about a case, keep sharing information, keep putting pressure on authorities to continue investigating, that's when breakthroughs happen. Star's case has been featured on numerous true crime podcasts, YouTube channels, and blogs. Each retelling of her story has the potential to reach someone who knows something, who remembers something, who has that crucial piece of information. Where the case stands today. As of October 2025, Star Palumbo has been missing for over 25 years. She would be 50 years old now. She's been gone longer than she was alive. Her case remains officially open with the Reno Police Department. It's classified as a missing person case, though investigators privately suspect it's a homicide. Without a body, without evidence of a crime, they cannot officially reclassify it as such. The FBI has Star's information in its national databases. Her DNA profile is available for comparison with unidentified remains. Her physical description, her dental records, her fingerprints, all of this information is readily available to law enforcement agencies across the country. Yet, nothing has emerged. Star's family continues to mark each anniversary of her disappearance. April 26th is a day of renewed pain, renewed hope, and renewed determination. They post on social media. They contact the police for updates. They hold on to the belief that one day, they'll have answers. The most pressing questions. If we're ever going to solve Star Palumbo's case, several critical questions need to be answered. 1. Who were the people Star owed money to? Investigators have never publicly identified specific individuals who Star was in debt to. Either the police don't know, or they know but lack evidence to charge anyone. Finding these individuals, or their associates, is crucial. 2. What exactly happened at the hospital? We know Star was evaluated and released. But what was her mental state when she left? Did she leave alone? Did someone pick her up? Hospital security footage from 2000 is likely long gone, but there might be staff members who remember something. 3. Where did Star go immediately after leaving the hospital? Did she go back to her apartment? Did she go looking for friends? Did she go to score drugs? Retracing her movements in those first hours after her release is critical to understanding what happened. 4. Were there other people at the airport that night? The airport incident focused on Star, but were there other people in the area? Could someone have been waiting for her outside the airport? Could someone have followed her to the hospital? 5. What was Star really running from on that tarmac? Was it drug-induced paranoia? Or was she genuinely fleeing from someone real? If someone was after her at the airport, they might have caught up with her later. How you can help. If you've made it this far in this video, then you care about Star Palumbo's case. You want to see it solved. You want her family to have answers. So let me tell you exactly how you can help. First, if you lived in Reno in 2000, if you knew Star, if you remember anything about the drug scene in that area during that time, please contact the Reno Police Department. Even if you think the information is minor, even if you're not sure it matters, let the police decide. Call the tip line. You can remain anonymous. Second, share this video everywhere. Share it on Reddit, on Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok, in true crime groups, with friends who are interested in unsolved mysteries. The more eyes on this case, the better chance someone who knows something will come forward. Third, if you're in Nevada, if you're hiking in remote areas, if you're exploring abandoned mines, if you're working construction in undeveloped land, be aware. Be observant. Human remains can turn up in unexpected places. If you find something, don't disturb it, and contact law enforcement immediately. Fourth, keep Star's case alive. Don't let her become a statistic. Don't let her be forgotten. She was a real person who deserved better than what happened to her. Her family deserves closure. Justice delayed is justice denied, but it's never too late for the truth to come out. The power of persistence. I want to share something with you. In 2022, a missing person case from 1974 was finally solved. 48 years after Rita Curran disappeared, her killer was identified through genetic genealogy. The man had been dead for years, but her family finally had answers. In 2021, a Jane Doe who had been unidentified since 1975 was finally given her name back. 46 years later, she wasn't just Jane Doe anymore. She was Jeanette Kamahele, and her family got to bring her home. These cases tell us something important: it's never too late. No case is too old. No lead is too cold. Technology improves. People's consciences weigh on them. Information that was hidden comes to light. Persistence pays off. Star Palumbo's case can be solved. It will be solved. It's just a matter of when, and whether we, as a community invested in justice, do everything we can to help make it happen. We're near the end of this video, but Star Palumbo's story doesn't end here. It won't end until we have answers. And that's where you come in. I need you to do 3 things right now. 1. Subscribe to Untold Cold Cases Files. Hit that red button. Ring the notification bell. This channel is dedicated to cases just like Star's, cases that have been forgotten, cases that deserve attention, cases where families are still waiting for answers. Every week, we bring you deep dives into unsolved mysteries. Be part of this community. Help us bring justice to those who have been forgotten. 2. Like this video. I know it seems like a small thing, but YouTube's algorithm pays attention to engagement. The more likes this video gets, the more YouTube will show it to other people. And one of those people might be someone who knows something about Star's case. Your like literally helps spread this story further. 3. Share this video right now. Don't wait. Don't think, I'll do it later. Do it now. Share it on your Facebook wall. Tweet it. Post it to your Instagram story. Send it in your Discord servers. Post it in true crime subreddits. Send it to your friends who love mysteries. Someone watching this video, someone you share it to, might have the information that solves this case. And here's why this matters: Star Palumbo was a real person. She was somebody's daughter. Somebody's sister. She had dreams and fears and hopes. She struggled, yes. She made mistakes, yes. But she was human, and she deserved better than to vanish without a trace. Her family has been living in limbo for over 25 years. 25 years of not knowing. 25 years of birthdays and holidays marked by absence. 25 years of hoping the phone will ring with news, good or bad, anything to end the uncertainty. You have the power to help them. Your subscription, your like, your share, these aren't just abstract internet actions. They're real tools that can bring real results. So please, I'm asking you directly, help Star Palumbo. Help her family. Help bring this case to a resolution. In April 2000, Star Palumbo ran through the darkness of a Nevada airport tarmac, terrified of something, or someone. She was found, evaluated, and released. And then she was gone. 25 years later, we still don't know what she was running from. We don't know if she's alive or dead. We don't know if she's buried in the desert or living under an assumed name in another state. We don't know if she was murdered for drug debts or if she accidentally overdosed and panicked friends hid her body. We don't know. But we don't have to accept that uncertainty as permanent. Cold cases get solved. Missing persons are found. Justice, however delayed, can still be served. This is the mission of Untold Cold Cases Files: to keep these stories alive, to refuse to let victims be forgotten, to believe that every case deserves attention, every family deserves answers, and every person deserves to be remembered. Star Michelle Palumbo. Born March 29, 1975. Last seen April 26, 2000, at the age of 25, in Reno, Nevada. Brown hair, brown eyes, 5 feet 4 inches tall, 125 pounds, with a distinctive birthmark on the right side of her neck and multiple piercings in each ear. If you have any information about Star's disappearance, please contact the Reno Police Department at 775-334-2677. You can remain anonymous. This has been Untold Cold Cases Files. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for helping us bring Star Palumbo home.